Akbar and I met at a hackathon, which, if you don't know, it's like 3 days straight where you're coding together for the whole time and you barely sleep. So we got close pretty fast. And then I realized he was kind of the first close friend I'd had who thought about life so differently from me that I would actually just disagree with a lot of things, like very strongly. You know, most of my friends are pretty open and we kind of always meet in the middle. And Akbar has a very firm sense of how the world works. And honestly, part of me does envy that. And I kind of feel like it must be nice to have a stable sense of who you are. But I kind of sit at the other spectrum. I'm very open-minded to how people live the world and sometimes to a fault where I would assess and see whether I want to implement their view into my worldview. So going into this, I had a question for myself is, what would happen if I just asked questions instead of debating things about the world, and if I didn't challenge him, and if I didn't push back, and I just tried to understand the story he tells about himself? So that's what this episode is going to be about. Okay, usually I start with, how would you introduce yourself?
My name is Akbar Kamidov. You can say Akbar Hamidov. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah, that's me. I am currently a Vanderbilt student. I'm in my second semester of my sophomore year. I worked in industry for 3 years. I took a break from my computer science degree, and then I decided to come back and pursue something different this time.
So, I feel like I don't want to make this serious just because it's you. 3 years.
Well, I wasn't intending it to be a gap year.
Triple year.
Yeah.
Try, gap, gone.
This is a podcast? Alright. So, what happened was, I did not really enjoy the work I was doing at school, specifically related to like computer science. So at the time, I was like, okay, well, and I got this internship, and I was pretty lucky with it. I talked to the guys at the company, and they were initially looking for graduate students, but just I was able to like convince them that like, hey, I'm into this. I actually had a podcast at the time I was like, I have a podcast about computers and technology, and the guy was like, wow, that's really cool and interesting. Let me give this guy a chance. They gave me a chance, and I got the internship. And then I did really well there, and you know, it's like when you're young and you're not really getting the positive feedback that you've typically gotten your entire life, because that's what really pushed me to succeed in high school and before that. It's like just consistent positive feedback, like, oh, you're doing well, this is good. When I got to college, I didn't get that. I actually got negative feedback. It's like, oh, these classes are hard, you have to do all this, you're not doing well. You're around all these people who are all competing for the same limited resource. But when I got this internship, it was as if they were like, wow, you're so good at this, Akbar. And people kept telling me that I'm good at this thing. So then I started to believe that I was good at it. And I just got obsessed with it. And I just kept doing it. And what I was doing software, like reverse engineering, I just basically identifying network devices and stuff. I had a knack for it, and I picked it up pretty quickly. At first it was hard, but and, you know, when people tell you that you're really good at something, you want to get even better at it to, you know, reinforce that narrative. And yeah, and that's when I was like, you know what, I'd rather do this than slave away at school the next 3 years.
That's interesting, because usually people use the phrasing slave away for the opposite things, like slave away for work or corporate.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So what made you come back?
Let me come back. Well, you know, it was a startup, and startups are unstable. You know, they go through leadership changes, they go through, you know, just management that doesn't really know what they're doing sometimes. And that's fine. You know, people are always going to be people. Like, you can have a great product, but if you can't manage the people that are working on it, and priorities change. So a lot of the people that I used to work with actually left or been let go of the company. So I decided, well, it's about time that I don't want to be on this ship for any longer, because I feel like I'm being overworked. You know, a lot is expected of me that I don't think I can actually do at this time. You know, or it's like my priorities weren't lining up. So I said, well, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life, so I decided to leave.
So I'm really curious, like during those different environments, how does your narrative about yourself change? Or like, how much of it is like an intentional choice of you need to constantly like reinforce a narrative change?
I think it's both. Sometimes it's out of your control and you just have to like readjust who you think you are. Obviously, like, when you come into a good school, you're expecting, hey, I am this type of person. I'm an academic. I'm smart. These expectations that you have of yourself, and when they aren't met, like you just suffer. Like you doubt yourself. There's a lot of things that's just doubting, really. But then, the narrative shifted where I started getting this feedback from outside. And then eventually I decided, well, I don't like this version of myself where I am a student who's doing these things that I see as pointless. No, I don't really.
Why not?
Because I think it has a point. Like, not everybody is fully prepared to enter the workforce.
So where does the point, is the point of preparing to enter the workforce for you, in your opinion, or experience?
Well, that's one way to look at education, but I think education is more than that. I think it's more about like creating a good citizenry, because if you have a society that's full of well-educated people that can make good decisions, but it doesn't have to be like the same decision too. As long as everybody's educated, they can make better decisions overall. I think that's better. I think the health of the society or just bigger is more important. That's why I think
I would challenge that.
Okay.
I feel like education sometimes gets people onto an ivory tower or like a moral high horse situation where it actually harms people or harms the people around them. But I'm still like forming my opinion and idea around it. So I'm curious, like, what do you feel like informs your perspective?
I mean, I definitely see the view of like the ivory tower. I think with any power structure, like institution, right, there's going to be like this level of like in-group, out-group, right? So somebody who's gotten into this academia or whatever level that you reach to, they're expected to have gone through all the hoops that other people have. They've done their master's or they've done their PhD. They've written papers and research that sometimes can be pointless, right? But I do think it does help people to have some concentration of that kind of knowledge. So I don't think the university is or at least just academia is serving the individuals. I think it's serving the society as a whole. Mm-hmm. Like it has to exist, and it can be better, right? But it has to exist because it's like how you keep ideas and like knowledge over time. Mm-hmm. Like in the past or before these kinds of institutions, if these institutions disappear, right? Like I think, like the pyramids, right? There was probably a certain class of people back then that knew exactly how the pyramids were built, right? Maybe not everybody at that time knew how it worked, but there's probably a group of people that were very specialized at this. But I don't think it was just one person inventing it. I think it was something that they had to build up. But then once that disappeared, we lose that knowledge. Now we're still trying to figure out how they did this. Mm-hmm. The Roman concrete too. I mean, we just recently figured it out. Still, we lost it for a while.
So, how do you make sense of your role in society? Because I'm asking this just because I noticed that we think about problems sometimes from a different angle, and I feel like I have like a more like emotional or like relational view, and you think from like a top down sometimes with like a societal view. So I'm not sure if that's like the right angle to ask that question, but that's like the context.
I think it's like, yeah, I do see that. That is how I think sometimes. The way I see it is like humans are social creatures. I wouldn't call them eusocial, which is like ants, bees, right? Where they cannot survive outside of the hive. Well, that's what eusocial means, right? Like they're completely dependent on each other, right? Like one ant is incapable of doing anything like significant in the world. Like it can't even feed itself sometimes. Like some of them can't. And that's how they define eusociality, is like if you cannot survive without other individuals. People say humans aren't like that, but I disagree. I think they are. I think you take a random person, you drop them off in some random jungle. There's very few people. There's a couple people that could probably survive, right? But the average person can't. Like, we're so completely dependent on other people, and it's gotten like to an even bigger degree since like globalization, like all these crazy supply chains, right? Like there are probably people taking a medicine that they rely on to like feel normal or function in their day-to-day life, that is like harvested, like the raw materials is being harvested by some kid in some foreign country with some plant that we don't know of, right? But somehow that is coming all the way to us. That's how I see things, at least. It's like we are completely dependent on each other, yet still somehow selfish, and it all works.
So what about your role?
My role?
Mm-hmm.
I think is to not act in an overly selfish way. Because like the way I say it is like if someone's like acting too selfish, like for their own interests, I think they're kind of acting in like the same way that a cancer cell would work, right? You're just like taking resources for yourself, taking resources for yourself. Sometimes it works for some people. Like you can be kind of discreet about it, you can live your own life, but then other people won't like you. But I think if you are living like an equitable life where you're contributing to society like something meaningful, you're not like exploiting others, or like your business is providing value to somebody. Like something like I would never do is I would never like anything addictive like coffee, nicotine, or things like that. Selling that, even in like a store or whatever, even if it makes me a lot of money, I would never want to do that because it feels horrible to me that I'm causing other people, even if it's like not life ruining, but tiny like little like pricks from them of.
So what do you make sense of the people who do that or are exploiting people by taking their life forces?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think it's like a natural. We all want more things, right? I want to be wealthy, or at least not wealthy in the sense of material, but like I want things so I can live my life the way I want without having to like completely rely on other people. And that's like a very quick and easy way to do it. If you just don't care about what your actions do to other people, then yeah, it makes sense. I don't know.
So do you feel like, hypothetically, if you could get that wealth, would you compromise on that?
No.
Why not?
I would just feel horrible about it.
So what does that mean to you? Like, what does success look like for you?
Success to me is I'm surrounded by people that care about me and that I care about them. And I'm able to take care of them without having to overextend myself.
It's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. Like if I'm, for example, my family, my parents, I want the ability for them to be able to live close to me if they want, or even just like a place that they can stay whenever they want to see me, right? Or I want to be able to like provide for my children's education, livelihood, so that they have somewhere, regardless of wherever they are in the world, whatever, so that they are able to take on more risks than I could have. By that I mean like I want them to build like a safety net for the people around me, so that people can rely on me. That's how I see success.
What does it mean to rely on someone?
Just to like trust that they have your back, like loyalty. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I appreciate about you, actually. I feel like you, like what you said with like the follow through. I actually really genuinely appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Even though we get annoyed at each other like all the time.
Yeah. That's true.
I find it actually very interesting on a side note. Interesting to have a conversation with you over like a podcast form, because like it kind of puts me in the mind state of trying to listen and understand more without inserting my opinions. Or like I would notice myself like directing the conversation in a certain way, but like at the same time it's like it's pretty interesting.
And like, you know, some of my thoughts are like half formed, so if I had more time to write it out, I'm sure I could give a better explanation for some of the beliefs that I hold.
So what, like, so I know you talked about your background and like your relationship with faith. And I'm curious, what are some key turning points that you remember that informed that? Or, I mean, I guess a bit of context first.
But, yeah, so I've gone through, you know, I feel like everybody has, but I've gone through like extreme stress. So it's like a lot of change happening all at once that you're not really expecting, or things that are happening that are out of your control. You know, it could be loss of somebody you care about, whether that's death or just them, they're just not being in your life anymore. It's just one example. It could be financial circumstances, you know. But what that does is like it reminds you that you lose things and you're not really in control of everything. I was actually talking to a friend of mine recently about maps. Maps. So we build out like maps for how we understand the world, right? And basically, they're just like really close approximations of what's going to happen, or like what you expect to happen in a day. Say, for example, I have a map of my day. I know on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, I wake up at 7 a.m., maybe earlier sometimes. I wake up and then I do my morning routine, and then I go to campus. If anything happens during that time where it's like unexpected, it's like a micro stressor. So then you extend that to like your life. You have an idea of what your life's going to look like in the next year. And then something happens that changes that plan. That's going to be like, I think to this like more magnitude, but it's going to be the same feeling of like stress. So that's what I'm trying to mean. And that struggling to like trying to accept that and be at peace with it, so that when things happen, you're able to reorient. That's kind of where I think faith had to come into my life, because I didn't really believe in anything. I was just living my life to follow my own desires, or like what I wanted in the moment, right? I wasn't thinking about like really long-term consequences. And then I was at a point where like a lot of bad things had happened to me. I don't really want to get into them. And I felt hopeless. And at that moment, I just said, well, there's a couple of things in belief systems that people have developed over centuries. You know, whatever religion it is, whatever, you know, even science. Like the scientific method is one of those, you know, ideas. They're all methods to like understand the world. And they've been tried and tested. They've been debated on. And I just decided, well, if these people before me were probably just as smart as me, they probably had something going on in their heads that was working for them. And I said, okay, I'll try it out. And then I just went through, and then I kind of came upon what made the most sense to me. And yeah, I think you need an element of faith in your life, just kind of yeah, it provides a narrative, really. You know, it's like, it frames every decision that I make nowadays. I'm Muslim, so the way I perceive the world is that like, things happen for a reason. I think everybody thinks this way, but like, everything is good. No matter what bad thing happens to me, I'm able to reframe it in a way that is positive. Maybe I won't feel it right now, but it will come very soon. Even if I'm dead, maybe that good thing will happen to somebody else because of something bad that happened to me. Because overall, everything is good. So that kind of brings me a lot of peace. So I don't have to like control everything. And then there's certain things that's like, I look back on my life and all the good things have happened to me, and I think, wow, this is evidence that maybe I didn't see it at the time, but this was God, universe, whatever you may call it, guiding me to this outcome. There's probably some people that'll be like, oh, that's because you're looking at it from the past, and maybe you're ignoring all the bad things that have happened to you. Maybe the bad things have happened equally or even more than the good ones, but you're only remembering the good ones. So what? It guides my life in a way that I feel at peace. And I feel that my life has this purpose, this divine purpose. Whether it's small or big, it has meaning. Yeah, that's why I believe what I believe.
So is that what you hold on to when things get really hard?
Yeah, of course. When things get really hard for me, I just fall back onto some of the practices that have helped me in the past. There's like a level of asceticism, I think it's what it's called.
Yeah.
Self-deprivation. I think in those types of moments where you're not allowing yourself, or maybe even like you're not even doing it intentionally, but then you get like these profound insights into like who you are, what the world is like. And that's like fasting or just intense discipline into whatever, right? It could be something as simple as like avoiding a certain type of food, right? Those kinds of practices, I think, they just provide structure to make meaning out of the world.
So what would you say to yourself during the time periods where you were further from faith, when you were struggling the most, knowing what you know now?
I wouldn't change anything. Because I feel like everything that has happened has put me in this moment. But if I could say something, if I wanted to change it, the thing is that I don't think I would have ever listened. I don't think I would have ever been receptive to it.
But it's future you.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, that guy probably has something to say, right?
If I knew it was future me, I'd be like, whatever thing you're avoiding right now that you know you need to do it. And I'm not even thinking about anything specific. I think that's just a generally good statement. Like if you live your life as if you're like somebody from the future is telling you, whatever thing you're avoiding right now that you need to do, that's like slightly uncomfortable, but you need to get it done anyway, to do it now. That's just a good way to live. Yeah.
Have you heard of the ham? Oh yeah, I think
yes, we have. Yeah.
What would you feel if we did a round of hammy questions
sure,
right now?
Let's do it.
So what's been something that you've been avoiding? Or you can ask me first. It's like a reverse podcast.
Reverse interview?
Yeah.
What have I been avoiding? I'm quite happy with my life right now. And maybe this is arrogance, but I feel like since I've become...
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe it's arrogance, but I feel like since I've been... Can you stop? Jeez. Right. That's why we get into arguments. But since I've been more faithful or just holding on to certain beliefs, I'm very, very strict on how I live my life. Not in terms of like, oh, you cannot do this or you're gonna suffer, but it's like, I'm always ahead on assignments and tasks that I have to do. I don't think I remember any moment where I've procrastinated anything in the past year and a half. I just can't do it. Because what's the point of waiting? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I understand procrastination because I've done it before. I was like my greatest thing in the world for me. But like, yeah, this, like, the way I think and see the world, or at least like holding on tightly to whatever belief you have, it makes me very disciplined. Yeah.
Okay, that's like not answering the question at all. It's like, what have you been avoiding? And you just talked about how you're disciplined. Okay.
Oh no, because that's what I said. I said I don't think I have anything I'm avoiding right now.
So you don't have any problems in life?
Right now, no.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have any problems. That's kind of what I've been trying to get at.
Cool. Good for you.
Thank you. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
I can see.
I can help you create some problems.
You do. No, don't worry. I think you are.
Thanks.
But yeah, I feel pretty good.
Okay.
What about you? All right. What's the next Hamming question?
Have a good time. Bye.
What's the next Hamming question?
I don't remember. I think that's like the Hamming question. I forgot how you exactly phrase that. I know there's like a list of 7, but I think it has to do with like personal growth and change and so on. Yeah. I think, okay, I kind of know the one for mine. It's just like sleep and getting off of social media and exercising. And it's very simple. It seems very simple, but I kind of understand like the root of it is like my relationship with my beliefs and my understanding of the world. So I think that's what is stopping me the most. It's like, so I'm trying to fix that and like make myself a bit more educated around the importance of sleep and treating it and just like doing things that make me feel uncomfortable. It's like, it's so vague when it comes out of my mouth, but like it's really hard in the moment just because of how intense a feeling can be. So I kind of, yeah.
I know the trap where it's like, oh, this next thing that I'm going to look at or do is going to be like profound and it's going to change my life, and then I'll stop. But then it just keeps looping.
I actually don't know what you mean.
Like when you're like, imagine like you're looking through like reels, right? And you're like, oh, well, the next thing is probably going to be like, make me feel something crazy, and then you swipe. And then you forget that you told yourself you were going to stop. And you lose the ability to just like grab yourself out of that.
That's interesting because I just had the exact sort of realization today.
Yeah.
Looking at YouTube because I like looking at like cinema stuff to like learn lessons from movies, and I find it really hard to just like live because I kind of like I love adventures and have this notion that everything has to be a big adventure, and it seems like that in like storytelling and so on. So it's like, I guess that's the thing. It's like, oh, understanding another cliche, adventures in your daily life, and the daily life is what matters. I think that's something I just cannot believe in, or like have it coexist with my notion of like something big. And I do think it's good sometimes because it pushes me to do some like crazy things, like solo traveling and so on.
That makes sense, yeah.
So, but yeah, I think going on another meditation retreat would be very interesting.
Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting in how we see the world differently is that I like the simplicity in things, like routine, mundane, because it's like, to me, it's like think of like a miner chipping away at a rock.
So you're the miner.
I am the miner. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then it's like, but the miner trusts that at the process.
That you'll find the diamond.
Yeah, you know that like image meme that's been going on recently? Yeah.
Wait, what?
You know, there's like a meme of like the miner, and then it's like,
oh, like the two different progresses.
yeah, and there's like the gambler is
diamonds.
like someone who like stops right before he reaches the diamonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that when I was like a child.
Yeah, it's
when I was
coming
a
back.
toddler, and it's still it's back.
It's interesting how like collective consciousness works. It just like pulls things from like the depths, and then it comes and becomes like aware of everybody. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I just view it as like, I watched a cool movie lately, like Heretic. I don't know if I've talked about it, but
Yeah.
it talks about religion being like iterations, just like how stories are.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely believe in that, like in a lot of theories of like Carl Jung.
It's probably been iterated over thousands of times.
Right.
They probably started off with like a really, really rudimentary, just a box, and then you probably like put your finger in it, and then you like put it on your lips directly.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was like, "Oh, that's inconvenient because then your finger gets dirty."
Mm-hmm.
And someone else invented like, "Oh, what if you like twist it up, or like, you like push it up?"
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like, "Oh, what if you like screw it up?" Because like you
Mm-hmm.
can only build off of what other people have done.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's with technology. I think technology and narratives are two different things.
I think they're the same thing.
And they work very differently. You know,
I think they're the same thing.
Why are they?
I think they're both ideas. They're both there. It's a technology in the way that it allows us to do things with our head. Maybe like technology, you can like do things to the world, right? But like stories themselves are also technological or just like intellectual revolutions. And I'm going to draw from Islam because this is just what I've researched, right? I mean, there's probably other examples of this in other faiths, and I'm not saying this is whatever. But Muhammad, peace be upon him, was an illiterate man in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, he goes around telling people, an angel, the angel Gabriel, told me I have to read, but I can't read.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gabriel tells him more stories about these things. But that's besides the point. What he does is says that there is only one God. And this is a belief that other people have had before, right? You know, in that region. But most of the people in that region were polytheists.
Mm-hmm.
And right? And people say like the polytheists were like immoral, they were killing people or doing stuff like that. But I don't know what was happening. But what he did was that he united all of them under one single ideology, that being Islam. And then after that, because they were all united under one idea, they then conquered, they expanded their empire. I think it was like still to this day, the fastest expansion of any single empire in history. Like in the span of 30 years, I think they conquered the span of the entire Roman Empire.
Wow.
30 years. Because of one idea. You know? This is how I see it.
It's like our tastes are generalized. So if you think about that as a technology, I think that's like very, very different impacts from what narratives are. If you look at stories, if you look at literature, if you look at what authors think about their stories, like a lot of authors talk about, it's really just an excavation of, well, I was listening to some things by Margaret Atwood, and she talks about all the stories all just came from before. So I think of the humanities and stories as something that is based off of human nature, and human nature is pretty static, but I guess I also got this like from other ideas where it's like, oh, human nature is static, the tech world is like changing and advancing so quickly, so then the movies and films, it's kind of like a reaction towards this current context. But I wouldn't say they're fundamentally novel in of themselves compared to technology mechanisms, even though they're also based from things from the past.
Okay, then I guess it makes sense to not call it a technology. But it is like, if these narratives affect how you think or perceive reality, then it affects like what you're able to produce and innovate and create. I guess that's what I'm trying to draw, like, connection to.
I guess we could call it an algorithm that we're like entrapped in or enabled by, like a loop. Because I remember I had like a period of my life where I was obsessed with this idea of perspective, because I just have this deep, deep belief that my perspective is limiting me from thriving, but I don't know how to get to the other side. And I know, well, the answer is just like, oh, read a little, talk to more people, but it's like a bit frustrating when I see what social media and like modern culture has like led us to. I guess there is this democratization of culture, like high culture and like knowledge, but at the same time, like with that comes like loss of meaning and so on. So I don't really know what perspective I want to adopt exactly, and I don't think I have a background of religion, or nor do I want to use that as an anchor. And of course the arguments are kind of cyclical and repetitive, because how could you think of a new topic or a new argument based on this like very fundamental basic question that's like intertwined? But it's still pretty interesting to just like be in the room just because of like what it represents or like the meaning it has.
Do you think if you repeat the same discussion, you're never going to get anything new out of it?
Depends on the people in the discussion.
I feel like if it's always different, there's always new people, then it's not the same discussion. If it's the same question that you start off with, even like just the people that are there.
Then I guess I could think of conversations as how, I guess like if I think of conversations in a really computerized way, like there are concentrations of conversations that I can sort of plan that I know will shift my belief in a positive direction more, but I just don't see that conversation specifically as something that is intellectually extremely challenging or will help me understand the world much more compared to, I guess, more introspective or specific conversations that has more closely to do with my life. Like, I'm just thinking, like, actually that's one of the reasons why I have a podcast, is because I have so many questions unanswered, and it's like the most direct way where I can explore that unknown, if you will, like, you know, the little graph where it's like no known, unknown, no unknown, unknown. So I do feel like that's like a section that I want to understand more, and sometimes it comes through books and sometimes it comes through conversations like this. Kind of went into a tangent, but I guess it was on like beliefs and conversations and so on. That's like what I'm trying to understand, because I feel like just comparing us as individuals, I do feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, or at least currently, you have a stronger narrative about who you are, and I have a looser narrative. And I kind of, looking back, I kind of feel like throughout my life, I've always had a pretty loose narrative of who I am, of like not fitting into any environment that I'm in. Like, even to the extent where like all my friends would tell me, oh, Adele, you're the only person who's not fitting into any group or any box. Like, when I was there, like, I'm like not a humanities person, I'm not a tech person, I'm like, I literally like have an own major that I haven't like decided yet. And it's like, yeah. But I don't know, I think there's merit in having a strong narrative, and I'm trying to craft that a bit more.
I think you're right. I do have a very strong narrative of who I am, but it doesn't mean I'm unwilling to change it. I think it does get harder to change if you have such a strong belief. Mm-hmm. So like there's patterns where like I have a very strong idea of who I am. At least this has been the way for at least up to current, right? Mm-hmm. It takes something big, some catastrophe for me to sit back and reevaluate. Oh, this didn't work. Let me reconstruct something new from whatever didn't work. But then I begin to hold strongly onto that idea as well.
In some way, I just think about like a loss function. You know, it's like you fit like life events of data in a curve, and yours is like a straight or like a linear or like a quadratic function that's like very set, and you just like adjust like a little bit of parameters, and I just like think about the function over and over again until like it could fit it perfectly. Maybe that's why I have so many crises. But I do think I'm like getting there, like closer and closer to where I want to be. Like in that intersection of the world of who I want to be. Do you think you found that?
As of right now, yeah. I think the way I see the world right now works very well for me. Yeah. And that can change. Something crazy could happen, or something crazy in my head. You know, I could come to some new realization, but then even then, that means it's like a better way of approaching the world.
I don't really think either of us changed our minds, and I don't think we were supposed to, but I understand him better now. Not like I really subscribe to how he sees the world, but I get where it comes from in the way I didn't really before. And the thing is, he wasn't really taught to be a different person, I guess. He's practicing a new habit, which is interesting, and it's really quite honest. And I guess it taught me that asking questions with someone with quite an opposing view can show you where you actually stand, where you just sit with someone who sees everything differently and just try to understand.